what does this mean? Spencer Sanders, 4-year starter at Oklahoma State, 85 career touchdowns. What do you got, 45 career starts, something like that?
42.
Okay, 42 career starts. That would fall into the something like that category.
Mm-hmm.
Probably thrown a few more interceptions than you'd like to see.
49 turnovers in those 42 games.
Yeah, that's too many. That's too many for a quarterback, but there's some good there. So you get Walker Howard, a former 5-star who has sat and redshirted and has 4 years of eligibility, and you sign Spencer Sanders. And Borky, I mean, I'll just give you credit. You've been asking the question, why? Like, I certainly get it from Ole Miss's perspective. I don't get it from Spencer Sanders' perspective. And so it feels like you got to ask the question, why did this happen?
Yeah.
What are we not seeing? What? If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck? I mean, is there something here with Jaxson Dart?
Possibly. I mean, so a lot of things can be true or because we don't know what's going on in Lane Kiffin's head, right? We have no idea what he thinks or why. For whatever it's worth, I've had some people tell me that Dart was blindsided by this. He was not. Knew this was coming, was well aware of this happening, chose not to hit the portal. The portal's closed now. He's going to participate in spring, obviously. Can't all of this be true or possible, anyway, plausible? I have a feeling, and also I talked to somebody earlier that would know, Spencer Sanders' options weren't as vast as people wanted to think that they were. He possibly hit the portal expecting to have 20 people just begging and pleading for him to come, and that didn't really happen. Can't it also be true that they like what they have in Jaxson Dart? But the thing is, he wasn't perfect. He was good. I think he's got an incredibly high upside. His ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan once said with a microphone. He's got a really high ceiling. But what happens if he doesn't take a step forward? You know what I mean? So if you only have two quarterbacks and you're wondering, we like him, but if he is that exact player next year, and roll your eyes if you want, you're not competing with Alabama. You're not competing with Georgia. You're not competing with LSU. And that's what they think that they are capable of doing. And you can call that a fool's errand if you want, but they're not going to Tuscaloosa and competing with last year's Jaxson Dart. So what? Maybe it's as simple as we like him, think he's good, think he can improve. We don't know if he will. And so there's this kid out here that can come in and compete with him and push him. And so why not sign him?
Yeah. So what was Jaxson Dart's sin last year? Not being Matt Corral?
I mean,
Well, if that's his sin, I mean, that's not really fair to Jaxson Dart.
That wasn't.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'm asking.
Untimely turnovers. Apparently, decision making was an issue there. Often, I mean, we saw it at multiple places.
The guy make it his first year as a starter, coming over from the Pac-12 to the SEC.
I don't know.
There's going to be growing pains.
Of course, I've never said that there wasn't, but it's fair to ask what happens if he doesn't improve. Quarterbacks have often not improved. Sometimes they are the same guy every year.
Well, and so that would be the question that's being asked internally at Ole Miss, right, about Jaxson Dart. Was this year one of 2 or 3 years with him as a starter where he's going to make incremental improvement? And you're going to look up and you're like, holy cow. Because you saw that with Matt Corral. You've seen that with other quarterbacks. I mean, Will Rogers was better. Well, he was better in year 2 than year 1, but maybe took a step back in year 3.
He was the same guy, basically. What did he get better at?
Yeah.
Honestly, look at Spencer Sanders. What did he get better at?
But in fairness to Will Rogers, in the offense that he was running, it's not like once you kind of hit a certain threshold, it's just about replicating what you did. It's not necessarily about getting better and better. And so But Will Rogers took a little bit of a step back, even from a number standpoint this year.
There's no question about that. Yeah, ago. In yardage for sure, he threw about the same number of touchdowns. But
so yeah, I mean, if you believe Jaxson Dart today is what Jaxson Dart will be in 2 years, then you're having a really serious conversation about what Spencer
and that
Sanders
explains why you get Howard
and what Walker Howard brings to the table long term.
Right, that's why you go get Howard. I get that. But Dart was better than Sanders last year in the SEC versus the Big 12.
Which would make
this to me is a huge vote of no confidence for Jaxson Dart. That's how I see this.
We'll press pause. All right. Hey, Dad used a strong phrase at the end of the first segment. He said that he thought Spencer Sanders being brought in addition to Walker Howard being brought in, was a vote of no confidence for Jaxson Dart. Tell me more.
I mean, I don't see it as any different. The Howard thing is different. Okay, let's be clear on that, because Howard is a guy who could sit a year behind Dart, and Dart could, at the end of the next year, maybe goes to the NFL, whatever you want to say. But Sanders is a guy that, he's got 1 year left. He's coming to play. We're having a competition at the very least in the spring at Ole Miss. To me, it doesn't feel like that different than bringing in Dart to compete with Altmaier. That I think at this time a year ago, we all kind of knew that Altmaier wasn't going to be the guy. That we thought that they were going to go out and find a transfer, likely going to be Dart, and he was going to come in and he did eventually win the job. I think it's the same thing here. I think when you bring in a guy like Sanders, you're telling everybody, it's like, I don't have complete faith in my guy that I had in Dart. I don't have I don't feel like I can just lock him in as the starter for 2023. So that's how I view it.
But that's not an apples to apples comparison, is it? When you were talking about a guy who had not been a starter in Luke Altmaier and a guy who had 4 years of eligibility remaining.
Right, it's different.
You're right. It's a stronger statement against Dart, because Dart had at least proven that he could be a good quarterback. And is there a game last year that I can point to that Ole Miss lost where I can say Jaxson Dart's the reason they lost that game?
How many games can you point to and say he's the reason they won?
That's fine. I mean,
but that's the thing.
That's a run-heavy offense. I mean, the quarterback is not. It's important, but when you got Judkins and Evans gashing people for 250 yards a game, you can get away with that.
What's confusing me is what's wrong with competition. It's the most important position on the field, the single most important position on the field. We get a text on the text line that says that's not fair to Dart. Well, life's not fair. SEC football is not fair. You want to know what Texas A&M's recruiting budget is compared to yours? Nothing's fair in this sport. Jaxson Dart can do and will do one of two things here. Because I've watched Spencer Sanders a lot. I think Jaxson Dart's got a higher ceiling than Spencer Sanders, and he's got more time to reach that ceiling. And last year, in a harder conference with less experience, put up better numbers than Sanders did in the Big 12. So Jaxson Dart can do one of two things. He can be mad about this and fold, and if that's the case, then so be it. You don't want somebody that would shy away from competition to be your quarterback anyway in this conference. Or he'll see this and think, no, this is my team. This is my job. You can sign anybody. Spencer Sanders doesn't matter. I'm going to work my you-know-what off, and I'm going to make sure that nobody comes in here and takes my job, and that's a win. So you either upgraded the most important position on the field, or you pushed your incumbent starter to levels that he wasn't reaching previously. I mean, competition breeds excellence. That is a thing that a high school coach used to say 5 times a day, every single day.
Got that on a
more than one.
But it's true, though. I mean, if Jaxson Dart truly is better then this will push him and push him hard, and he will work harder. And I mean, the only thing that you can fear is locker room chemistry issues. That's the one thing you fear, and it's a legitimate fear.
Which is a realistic fear.
Absolutely, but that's why you get paid $9 million
problem,
to figure it out.
Oh, you don't get paid to be on Twitter?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I will say this though, and look, we knew before it happened that Caleb Williams was better than Jaxson Dart, but Dart didn't want any part of that competition. He got out of Dodge as quickly as he could. So just for me, I mean, I don't know. I see Dart, and I think that's a guy, I thought he was talented. I thought he made a lot of big plays, especially with his feet. He was a better runner than I thought he would be. I thought in year 2 of developing him that he could be a potential NFL guy. I don't know if Kiffin agrees with me based on the moves that he's made in the past couple of days.
Comparing numbers from Spencer Sanders and Jaxson Dart last year, I mean, and this is good comparison. Spencer Sanders was 212 of 368 for 2,642 yards. Jaxson Dart was 226 of 362 for 2,974 yards. Jaxson Dart, 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Spencer Sanders, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Spencer Sanders ran it 107 times for 391 yards and 8 touchdowns. Jaxson Dart ran it 128 times for 614 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, Dart had the better year.
Had a better year by every statistical measure. So why is Sanders here?
I still think that his options were limited.
And size-wise, they're almost identical as well. Yeah. Jaxson Dart, 6'2", 220. Spencer Sanders, 6'1", 210.
It's been intimated to me that his options were limited. Very few places he could actually go. And people think that he was
promised. There's a reason his options were limited. His options were limited because there's academic work that still has to be done for him to be able to be eligible to play next year. And it's not like the grades are terrible. It's just number of hours to complete his degree.
Yeah. So if you can't go to but a couple of places, doesn't it make the decision make more sense? And make the pursuit of him make more sense? If you don't have to work
What was the other place? What was the other place? Is their starter in place? I don't know the answer to that.
Auburn people, and I mean, who knows if you can believe what they report, but are saying that he wouldn't have been able to qualify there.
They're saying that. That's either a great way to cover up the fact that you got beat on a kid or it's true. Don't know which.